Democrats can run, but they can't hide from Joe Biden's $500 billion student debt free-for-all. Vulnerable Democrats in some tough midterm races waking up to the reality that swing voters might not be so kind to a party that can't stop pouring gasoline onto the inflation fire. They're revolting against Biden's bailout with some sharp rebukes, calling it, quote, out of touch, and saying, quote, it sends the wrong message. And even the left-leaning Washington Post is calling it a regressive and expensive mistake. The White House responding to all of that and dismissing concerns.
This is about getting people to vote ahead of the midterms, and that the real national emergency is Democrats in the midterm elections.
Well, I mean, I disagree with everything that you just laid out. We have said we're not going to make everybody happy. And so if we are not making everybody happy, you cannot say that, that what you just laid out is certainly cannot be the case either.
But one delusional Democrat is downplaying all the warning signs and giddy about their midterm prospects.
How are you feeling about the chances of the Democrats holding on to the Senate? Is this the thing?
I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I'm liking it.
But the biggest question mark is how much we'll all have to pay for this. New estimates have the taxpayers on the hook for as much as $600 billion. But the White House refuses to tell us a price tag.
How much does this cost?
You know, the projections are still coming out depending on how many people take advantage of it. But let me remind folks.
What's the range,
about 3
Mr.
months,
Secretary? What's the range of possibilities?
Well, like I said, those projections are still coming out based on how many people take advantage of it.
Okay, so there you have it. The president handing out money based upon a pandemic, but every day he says the economy is great. Every day they fight to say that we're not in a recession. Every day they say Title 42 is no longer relevant and we're not going to use it. We're not even buying vaccines anymore. So on what basis does the president make a decision that young, healthy, educated people with a long life and a career ahead of them are entitled to this kind of remedy?
Talking to me?
Yeah, I am, Brian. Looking right at you.
All right. I don't think he wanted to do it. I think he would have done it 18 months ago if he wanted to do it. The word behind the scenes was, the word that got to him was, this is a legacy builder. We're going to build a legacy. So they wheel in John Meacham or whoever, Michael Beschloss, and they say how this will help define you. He knew that this is unfair inherently. It reminds me a little of what Harold Ford was saying last night, that this $10,000, the impact it's going to make on the deficit undoes what he said was necessary with his other plan that came through. Also, I'm laughing at the fact that they're pretending as if no Democrats are against this. They keep saying Republicans, right-wingers, Mitch McConnell, excuse me, Tim Ryan, Chris Pappas, Mike Bennett, the senator, Jared Goldman, a House member from Maine, Sharice Davis from Kansas, Cortez Masto. I mean, there was many high-profile Democrats who want nothing to do with this, and now Fox is saying it's between $500 and $800 billion.
Well, and, the interesting thing about that, Jesse, is, whether it's $500 billion or more than $500 billion, Karine Jean-Pierre insists upon saying, well, we really don't know how much it's going to cost. How could they not know how much it's going to cost? Are they that reckless that they would put our national debt even higher, almost $1 trillion, and say, well, we really don't know?
Well, she doesn't know because it's not in her binder. And no one knows. And they don't care. And that's the truth. She says that experts have told them that it's going to break even. Now, experts have not had a good track record the last couple of years.
Nobel laureates?
Yeah, we're going to go back to that. When is a reporter going to say, which expert? Which expert says that? Who's she going to trot out? She's going to trot out Jill? There are no experts. These people don't exist. And then Biden is out there saying, I have the power to do this, like he's America's dad. It's like, all right, Sally, you know what? Let's call it even. Just be nice to your mother for the rest of the summer. You can't do that. I mean, this is the way maybe his family ran things. If you look at the history of the Biden family, they were always getting suspicious loans from donors. A Delaware bank just happened to give him a no-interest loan for a home. Hunter pays the family bills. You can't run a country like this. They're saying that he's using pandemic powers. When are those over? Answer, never. Yeah. They're running the republic like he's a king, and it's not fair because a Republican gets into the presidency and they run it like a president. But you can't compete against a king when the Congress and the press let him be a king. Usually you have the middle class. That's defined as like 50,000 to 100,000. Now, Trump beat crooked among those middle class voters. Biden eked out a victory among the middle class last time, but now he's betrayed them. You can't just bail out grad students making six figures on the backs of middle class people. You can't raid the Treasury to just pay bribes to the upper class. You can't do it. Now, he used to have a little more class consciousness. That was Scranton Joe. He's maybe too old. Maybe he got rolled by the radical left because they have debt. But even as you said, these Democrats in competitive races, they know it's a wedge issue, and he's on the wrong side of it.
You know, Dana, I'm going to ask you a question that you asked yesterday, and that is it legal? I mean, a year ago, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi said it wasn't. Congress has the power of the purse. Does the Higher Education Act give them the ability to negate this? And I'm going to say one more thing. Jason Furman suggests it's going to cost the average taxpayer $2,000.
At least, right? Because this, I think that it could be higher than $500 billion because it depends on the income thresholds. And I also think this is not the only time they will do this. And that is why I'm hoping that somebody does bring a lawsuit and that they can have standing. I read this whole long article today about standing. Standing means basically that you have the right to sue. So, but the way the Higher Education Act reads, it's almost like, wait, what do you mean that none of us would have the right to sue? Now, another thing on the pandemic loans, for example, those were passed by Congress. That was a discussion that was had in Congress. They put their names on to the vote, and they said, fine, we're going to do this. This is Joe Biden saying, I'm just doing this with my pen. And on the legal front, I think it's very interesting that they had to lean on the 9/11 authority to get this done. Now, that was for military. And they're having to go all the way back there. That means that it's called the HERO Act. Let me tell you something. AOC is not a hero in this. Okay? And I was thinking today about how I would love to interview her. I'm sure she would never come on. But I know somebody who lives in Wyoming who is around her same age, bought a backhoe. This is a heavy piece of equipment, and it's used for work around their property, and also they do work for others. They get hired to do some work. Pays a lot of bills. It's really great. They'd take out a loan to buy the backhoe. Why is she more deserving of loan forgiveness than he is? I would love to ask her that. And hopefully she would have an answer. My last point I would like to make is just about the White House answers on this. There's nothing in the binder.
Nothing.
They can't answer who will pay for it, who has the authority. They try to say that, oh, well, by the end of the year, it's going to be a wash. That's not true. That's just actually, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We all know that. The money has to come from somewhere. And it's coming from you.
Harold?
So I shared my views about this yesterday, and I think that you look at this in two ways, fairness and inflation. The fairness issue, I think we've talked about around the table today, and we talked about it yesterday and on other shows all across the network. If you paid off all your debt a year ago, why is it, and you saved, and your family saved, and you made sacrifices, it's unfair to that family even a month ago, for that matter, several years ago. So I think Democrats, we're going to have to explain that a bit. Again, I think all of this should have been conditioned on providing help for those who are going into professions that we need more of: pilots, teachers, family doctors, nurses, truck drivers, engineers. We could go down the list, but we are, Jesse, you made the point yesterday about some majors, and I got criticized by a family member of mine who's an art history major for talking about art history being one of the things.
Going home after the five.
Yeah. That being said, we still, if we're going to shell out these kinds of dollars, and it's $300 billion. I made the point yesterday, to your point, Brian, we negated the $300 billion that Joe Manchin negotiated in the Inflation Reduction Act. So it concerns me. Now, the White House will argue that you give these kids an opportunity, these young people an opportunity. There are 43 million Americans, borrowers, who are affected by this. 20 million of that 43 have their debt they're forgiven altogether. So will they be able to invest more in their own businesses, invest more in their communities, buy a home, invest in their kids' education? I would hope so. That would be their argument. Finally, the inflation piece. Jason Furman and Summers and others have all talked about this. I think some people need to take a little of the sanctimony out of this. I've heard some of my Republican friends, and they're old friends in the Congress, being really critical of this. I would remind all of us that when we passed the PPP loans, members of Congress, their businesses got forgivable loans under the law. And that was $2 trillion, and we're now saying that inflation was caused by some of these things. You can't be against inflation when it helps you politically one day and not be critical of it.
Harold, don't you think it's a little bit different? One is an elective. I chose to go to college. A pandemic, thanks to China, destroyed the country, brought this to his knees, so I had no choice.
I'm talking about inflation, the inflationary pressures. But I think we should not, the sanctimony needs to be removed from it. There's members of Congress whose businesses got millions of dollars, and like a lot of Americans, those loans were forgiven. You can't say inflation, this is going to pour and worsen inflation, which I think it will. I'm just not going to be on a high horse about it. But at the same time, you didn't have to take the money. You could have said, you know, but this is going to lead to inflation, so I'm not going to take the millions of dollars in loans.
I think you're eating apples and oranges at the same time.
No, not on the inflation argument, I'm not. I don't think so. But whatever the case, this bill here, what this president has signed on this, I just hope everybody needs to take a step back. The White House, if you think this is the right thing to do, you're going to have an answer on where this money comes from. You can't say you don't know the range.
Said, cut the interest rate. Some of these interest loans on the student loans are 10%. How do they get away with that? If you want to go up to everyone and say, hey, if you're paying 5%, I'm going to, for the next 18 months, you're paying 2%. To me, it makes more sense.
Right. Brian, I totally agree. And at least you can understand what it costs. We don't understand what this is going to cost.
And also, Congress should do it. You can't just have the king do it. We don't work that way.
Well, Pelosi said that he could not do this. Pelosi's quoted a year ago saying this.
Yeah, well, so did he. But you know what?
He didn't say he couldn't do it. She said he couldn't do it.
But the other thing is, it's part of an institutional thing that they're doing. The colleges are raising the money while they're giving them money, and it's not level with inflation. It's a whole, you know, it's like an enterprise, an organized enterprise.
Why not pair this also with bringing these university heads before and say, explain to me why tuition costs have jumped way past inflation. What are these kids getting for this huge gap? You know what they're getting? Not much. And we should, the federal government
not getting much?
Art history majors.
Kids are, if you look at the jump in these tuitions.
A friend of mine has a kid who has a business with tools and a truck. He goes out, he has to buy the tools first. He's not getting any kind of a break. This is a kid who doesn't make any money if he doesn't sell his tools. You know what? It's not fair. It's not fair. It's just not fair. And that's the end of it. So coming up.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.